Yep, 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 yep.
Hi, welcome to this episode of the Finnish Football Show. Something a little bit different today. It's me, Mark Wiltshear, with Rich and Mark H, and with Keke as usual. But this time we've got a special guest, Michael Christiansen. Hi, Michael.
Hi.
Michael is a. Thank you. Good to meet you too. And Michael's a journalist in Denmark, and he actually reached out to Finnish Football Show in the aftermath, really, of the incident with Christian Eriksen in the Finland-Denmark game, which was now recorded last month, and asked us a few questions about the kind of cultural impact here in Finland. And we thought it might be a good idea to kind of get on a recording and just have a chat about it. So, Michael, thanks for agreeing to do this.
You're welcome.
Let's get the elephant in the room out of the way, first of all. We're recording this just after the Euro 2020 semi-final, where England beat Denmark 2-1. We are here representing Finland today, but we are English guys. So is there anything you'd like to get off your chest before we start talking about the other game? What was your view on yesterday's match?
Well, what a drama it was. I mean, in Denmark, we've been through a lot of emotions the last weeks here, but and last night was no exception. I mean, in a way, the game had everything, and we had a very special goal to start with, but then England bounced right back into the game and took it to extra time. And I think it was all in all was a big disappointment. That penalty was it's been talked about a lot today. I think it was rather thin, the decision, and then the goal itself, Kane missed it, but then he scored on the rebound, so it wasn't the most beautiful goal scored in the tournament, and then it ended up being the one kicking us out. So yeah,
I think it's one of those penalties where if it goes against your team, you're not happy, but if your team gets it, then you'll take it and not be too proud. Mark?
Yeah, I can just say that. I mean, first of all, after the opening game in this tournament, every Finnish fan's got a massive affinity with Denmark, and we've been always like looking out for you guys and rooting for you. Additionally, having been a fan of Finland, watching a team defend for their lives, for 120 minutes and give absolutely everything, to the cause in that pursuit is also something that I can sympathize with a hell of a lot. And I really sort of felt last night that Denmark had worked really hard and I think done enough, to keep England at bay and to keep them out. And again, I guess then also from a Finnish fan's perspective, I can say also that we know that heartbreak as well. When you've absolutely given absolutely everything, you've tried to keep it as tight as you can, and then you just don't get that bit of luck. It just runs out just at the end. So I do feel for you in that regard.
Yeah, it seemed like the players.
What an amazing tournament Denmark have had.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, they have. It's been an incredible run. After the first game, everything, well, obviously we all know what happened, and most of the country was in shock for a couple of days. And then something happened between the Belgian game and the Russia game. That first half of the Belgian game was incredible, and then no one really thought that Denmark could rise in the way they did and play that way. And then all of a sudden we played 2 games without points, and then along came the Russia game, and everything was just released. And then from then on, we thought, now we're back on track. Now we can go all the way. And I think everyone kind of knew we were going to win against Wales and the Czech Republic as well. So it wasn't until the England game that we started being under real pressure again. And then maybe everything went back to normal for a while after a couple of weeks of euphoria.
In our preview show, we spoke with Cameron from a Nordic Footy Twitter account, and I think he used the phrase that Denmark are scary good. So we came into that first game of the competition. That was definitely at the back of my mind as well. Like we're going to be in a real battle here, and I felt like Finland started the game quite nervously. We've clearly watched the team developing over the last sort of 3 or 4 years, and we've seen them play at their best. And I think they were nervous at the start of that game. But I guess the reason that you reached out to us was because of what happened to Christian Eriksen, and you wanted to know our sort of thoughts on the aftermath of that. So let's sort of do this back and forwards, if you like.
Yeah.
You asked us, like, how has this whole thing been dealt with in Finland, and what was it like to be on the other side of that match? And in a way, in this call now, we've got 2 of us living in Finland, 2 of us living in the UK, and then you living in Denmark. So maybe we can all give a little bit of input into that. You got my written answers. You're doing an article about this. But Rich, how was it sort of reported over there in the UK? What's the perspective been there?
I mean, it's all been about Denmark. Eriksen, having spent a long time at Tottenham, was a big link to that as well. So most football supporters in England would have known who Christian Eriksen was anyway. So I think there was a familiarity there as well. And because obviously in England, but in a lot of countries, similar incidents have happened where we've had Fabrice Muamba, Marc-Vivien Foé did that. I think it was a Confederations Cup. And these kind of things do happen sporadically. So there is a familiarity there as well, unfortunately. So it was reported quite widely, I think, with the caveat that, I mean, that the English media, even in any tournament, focus mainly on England. And I've even seen things about what would have happened if this was an England player and so on. But I mean, it was covered quite extensively, but then it very quickly became an anti-UEFA thing around the reasons why UEFA pretty much insisted that the game went ahead. And again, the profile of players such as Peter Schmeichel and Kasper Schmeichel, having that profile in the English media made that conversation carry on. From a Finland point of view, Finland were nothing. Finland just happened to be the other team. And the result went completely under the radar. And the larger story, and of course, the main thing is that Christian seems to be on the road to recovery. But over here, it very quickly went from a kind of almost tragedy, or a tragedy in some cases, to another stick to beat UEFA with.
Interesting. Mark, I don't know about you. You were at the game, but watching it over here and supporting Finland, when the penalty went in, I cheered. It took me a while to get back in. Or sorry, when the penalty was saved, I cheered, and then when Joel Pohjanpalo scored, I cheered louder. But there was also this feeling of, are we allowed to celebrate this? How did it feel being there in the stadium?
Yeah, so yeah, it was weird. That's absolutely sure, for sure. So I mean, if you want to go backwards, once the game had kind of gotten back underway and we had to sort of be in and part of the contest, everything slowly sort of returned to normal. And it's a bit like anybody that's been to a funeral or a wake. Every now and again, you'll meet a mate who you haven't seen in a while, and you'll have a joke, and then you'll remember where you are, and you'll go, maybe we shouldn't do that. And it was a little bit like that. So our reaction to the penalty save was jumping in the air. Our reaction to the goal, the same, hugging each other and jumping in the air. And then we sort of remembered kind of, where we were and how significant the the occasion and the event had been. I think something else that probably gets missed a lot in certainly some of the more global or generic media coverage is the game wasn't segregated in the same way like the Premier League is. So there wasn't like we were in a Finnish block, right, with the Finnish fans, but it wasn't 100% like white shirts across the board. There was a mix of about 5 to 10%. So every 10th, 20th person in our end was a Dane, and there was also Finnish shirts and flags kind of dotted around the home ends of the stadiums, and so we were all like face to face with other fans where we only had sort of compassion and sympathy, and we'd been locked arms with them 20 minutes or an hour before. So in the game, for the thing, we were back in the mode, but there was always that sort of lingering thought in the back of our head that we had to just sort of focus on the bigger picture.
Michael, what was the perspective from the Danish side of everything that went on? Maybe in relation or in respect to the Finnish team and how things were done.
Well, everything was very surreal, obviously, and there were thoughts about should Denmark withdraw from the tournament completely, or should they carry on? And then, we all know how it went on, but it was quite confusing all in all, and well, I think there has been sympathy towards Finland as well, because they were the other half, but of course all of the focus were on Danish side and Christian Eriksen and his recovery. But I thought it was interesting. I was curious about how the Finland team was dealing with this, and that's why I reached out for you guys, because how do you go on from an episode like this and carry on? We saw how the Danes did it, but what about the Finnish team? Were they able to recover? Or
I mean, we spoke with Joni Kaukko, and he said that it was like in the changing room, it was completely silent when the game was sort of postponed and they all went back into the changing room. He said it was for an hour silent. Nobody said anything. Nobody knew what to say or what to think, and they would have been very happy to do whatever the Danish team wanted. And all that they heard was the Danish team wanted to play on that night. So they said, okay, we agree, we'll do what they want. And it was only, maybe he said the next day, that they heard there'd been this pressure or this kind of options, but no option when to play the game. From the and then in the next game, which was like 4 days later against Russia, Finland scored early, which was disallowed. And we've talked on previous episodes about maybe that being another knockback for the Finnish team. And it I said that they didn't play to their best in that game. And I think as an attacking team, they never really quite got into their mode. Mark, did you want to come in there?
No, Keke had his hand up.
Sorry, Keke.
Yeah, I was just, I think the interesting perspective is obviously I don't expect if it had been any other team who was facing Denmark on that day, I don't think that any other team would have acted any differently. But I do think that there may be a little nod to the sort of Nordic brotherhood between Denmark and Finland, similar cultures, similar people. I mean, I do think that as some sort of, however insignificant you may think it is, some sort of bearing on how the situation played out. I mean, I've said on previous episodes, from a purely selfish point of view, it's obviously the number one thing is that Christian Eriksen is okay and that he makes a full recovery, but there's almost a sense of guilt that we did go on to win that game. Our first ever goal, our first ever win in our first ever tournament, and there's almost a sense of guilt among us that are we allowed to enjoy that because of what had happened to Christian. But as Mark said, you know, we did speak to Yoni, and he said that the overwhelming feeling of the Finnish national team was, we will agree to do whatever the Danish team decide. And I think that is would have been, from our point of view, the only option, the respectful option. And you can say that UEFA have questions to answer over the pressure that they may have put on the Danish FA and the Danish team to complete that fixture. But I think when the dust did settle and Denmark moved through the tournament and their performances became about, let's do this for Christian, let's pull together for Christian, and the whole country was behind, quite obviously behind the Danish team and behind Christian Eriksen's recovery. I think, it is obviously, if the unthinkable would have transpired, then maybe, I don't know if they would have canned the whole tournament or what, but the fact that Christian was able to sit up in bed and say so quickly, I'm on the mend, I think that the Danish team have done the right thing by putting in some fantastic performances in his honour. Is that the right thing to say? And pulling together for him. But my overriding, talking about UEFA, my overriding memory of that is that after the long delay that we had, the first thing that we saw was the whoever it is who holds it up, the UEFA delegate or one of the Denmark bench, had to hold up the number 10 on the illuminated board to say, oh yeah, he's been subbed off, which is something that, I know they've got their boxes to tick and everything's got to be official. I just thought, well, really, that was a strange one.
I think, so I mean, I think what Keke says there about Denmark going on and sort of stepping up their game is right, incredibly admirable, and it's amazing. Like it's been an amazing thing to watch and to see. I think if I think about that like first question about like how did the players sort of get back on or get back up, it would have been about 3 years ago. We had I think he was a youth coach and a scout on the show, and we asked him, what is it about young Finnish players that attracts them, or that maybe gives them a slight advantage against their competitors from other countries. And I can't remember the guy's name now off the top of my head, but he mentioned that one of the things that Finnish players tend to have more than other European counterparts was this mentality and an ability to focus as they get back onto when they cross the white line. I think it's also true if you think about this particular squad and group of players, which is that terrible thing happens. Nobody knows what's going on. They decide that they side with the Danish players, kind of whatever happens. And then there's the message that comes through, okay, we're going to finish it tonight. Everyone in that group, from front to back, from Hrdetsky to Pohjanpalo, to the subs like Joni Kauko, are exactly that kind of player that can just sort of get everything else out of the way and then sort of get back on with the game plan and with the organization. Finland's one of those teams. We've been incredibly organized for a couple of years, and so I think out of almost any other opponent, we were probably one of the ones that had the capacity to adapt mentally to that situation. Maybe more so than others. So practically how they did it, it's kind of a Finnish thing to sort of to sort of focus and then get back on with the work.
Is that was referred to as sisu?
Sisu. Yeah. Yes, that's sisu. Yeah, that kind of grit, the determination. You live next door to Russia for long enough, and you get some of that as a bonus. But one thing that I'm interested though, Michael, is when I think about that game. Without the incident, I think about the first 40 minutes, Denmark moving the ball quite fluidly, putting up a really heavy press on us. I think that sort of dynamic 3-4-3, but Finland kind of trying to stick with the low block, trying to frustrate and kind of move the ball out on a counter. did you? I can't tell as the away fan and as the guy cheering for Finland doing its defensive magic. I couldn't really tell that much of a difference in the playing style and approach of Denmark. Did you guys notice anything like on the pitch, technically, tactically, in terms of how they played after the incident?
Difficult question actually, because before the tournament, everyone would agree that Christian Eriksen is our biggest profile, or perhaps greatest player right now, because he seems to be at the peak of his powers. And then all of this happened, and then the way the team carried on, it was like it was carried on emotions, you know, and because of him being at the hospital, then the feelings took over, and the team was driven by something else. And there has been lots of talk about, is the team playing this well because they do it for him, for Christian Eriksen, or would they have done it all the same? So had he been in the tournament playing along with the rest of the team, we might have played some very good football, because he's you know, the biggest, the creative powerhouse in that side. But we somehow play well without him, or we have done for majority of the tournament so far. So yeah, it's strange.
I heard that sort of suggested that if he'd been playing, would they have relied on him a lot more? But without him in the team, did everyone just up their level a little bit more? Is that the sort of thing you're thinking?
It seems to be something like that, yeah.
Well, most of us were doing quite a lot of media work around trying to raise the profile of the show back in the UK and all over the place. And I was asked if the game against Denmark, because it's two Nordic countries, would be particularly spicy game. That was the phrase that was used. And I actually said that I thought the game with Russia would be spicier. And that's something that you kind of asked about as well. Keke, you're closely connected with the ASAMYK, or the Finland Supporters Club. How are some of your friends from the ASAMYK viewing the game against Russia?
Well, first of all, the game against Denmark, I mean, there's lots of people in the SMYK and in the wider Finland supporting community who have got a lot of friends in Copenhagen and in Denmark. So that was almost an opportunity of seeing old friends and visiting a city that they hold very dear to their heart. So I think that obviously there will be, once you're over the white line and the whistle goes, obviously there would be the rivalry that comes with that, but I think that was always going to be a friendly rivalry, and I think the incident against Eriksen really did show how the fans pulled together. I mean, that unbelievable moment where the Finland fans started to chant Christian's name, and then the Danish fans were replying with Eriksen. I think everyone's seen and heard that video. I think that was just like an absolutely unbelievable moment that shows how those two sets of supporters, you know, came together in support of the man to try and will him through his ordeal. But yeah, moving on to the Russia game, I think you know, they're the pantomime villain, Russia, aren't they? I mean, they're just the ones who we sort of loved. Everyone loves to hate, but yeah, there's I'm assured there's just as many friendly people in St. Petersburg as there are in Copenhagen. But no, it's I think it is a bit pantomime villain, but yeah, I think the rivalry against Russia is a little bit more spicy than the one against Denmark. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Nordic brotherhood mentality again, I guess.
That's it.
Yeah, the Finland supporters were praised by the way they handled the situation in the Denmark game. I think everyone appreciated how they supported the Danish players. So I don't know if I think, as one of you mentioned before, any team would have acted that way, but I don't know, being the Finns maybe made us appreciate it a bit more. Don't know.
Did that come across in the Danish press? That appreciation for the Finland fans?
Yeah, it was mentioned here and there, but of course the accident was the main headline, of course. So, but once in a while, it was appreciated and mentioned. Yes.
Yeah, it's good to know. And
yeah.
Does anyone else have anything to ask Michael? Michael, do you have anything else that you wanna ask us?
Well, so I mean, I've got a question just to round it up. I think when you reached out, you asked us something along the lines of like, as the tournament sort of closed for you guys, as it's gone, how do we look at it? Like, do we think that it's I don't know, a missed opportunity or whatever? And I think from all of us, and I'd be interested to hear what the view is from your side, but from us, for what Finland did, we're all just incredibly proud that we turned up to the tournament. Okay, no, I always talk about Turkey and North Macedonia. Turkey went to the tournament, got smashed in every game, left with nothing. North Macedonia turned up. They tried very hard, but they looked way out of their depth. I think we finished, we went to the Euros. In every game, we gave ourselves a good battle. We tried to give a good name for ourselves. Our fans represented the country and the culture well. And I think everybody kind of in Europe can now look and go, okay, Finland's another one of those footballing nations like the rest of us. So at least I think most of us kind of agree that we're just incredibly proud of how Finland's done.
Yeah.
That's our feeling. And I'd be really interested first from the other guys and then also to hear about, I don't know, how does it feel for Denmark like right now?
With the Danish team, I think it's kind of like the same. The game against England turned out to be one of these what ifs with the penalty situation and everything. And I think it could be the same with your Russia game, because it was a little bit, could have, would have, should have, and what would have happened if you had 4 points instead.
Marginal offside. Yeah. Marginal offside
exactly.
Decision. I'm sure he was. I look at it again and I'm sure he was on.
Yeah, but overall the Danes are very proud of the tournament and how the Danish side what they accomplished, and I think it could be the same sort of pride that the Finns have felt toward their national team. And so in the big scheme of things, I think pride is the main word here. Disappointment right now and last night, but it will soon be replaced by pride for sure.
Yeah, and I think for us here also now, it's only 2 months until the remaining World Cup qualifiers start, and we can all start getting exactly. Mark's rubbing his hands. We can all start getting excited again. Rich, if you're there, maybe after the Denmark game or after the group stages, anything else about Finland, or has it all been it's coming home talk?
Very little here. I think some of the coverage tends to be, when it's not about England, is about players who might be transferring. So a lot of the players in Finland, or in the Finland squad, who did quite well, some of them have been linked with transfers to English clubs. I think a couple, like Fredetsky, for example, obviously played a long time in Denmark, and to a lot of people in England, he's like, oh my God, who's this guy who plays in one of the top 5-6 teams in Germany and plays like that? And Glenn Kamara has been linked with a couple of clubs. Even players like Uranen has been linked to a transfer. But this is it, and you'll get, it's a silly season everywhere. I think there's a hashtag for it, but that's one of the things now that people are looking at, transfers and things like that. And we're at the end of the tournament. As we're talking, there is a lot of talk of surprising players, people doing their analysis, and players of the tournament, their top 11s. And at least Radetsky has, we've been pointing him out and talking about him for ages, but, he went and performed on the big stage and was probably one of the best goalkeepers at the tournament. So, it's nice to see Finland get talked about. And I mean, we can talk about ourselves being hipsters, and we were watching Finnish football before it became mainstream, but it's, very much, it's a nice thing to see. Obviously there's the first match was a big thing, and that's why Finland still get talked about a lot, but it's been a good ride. Keith.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, the after Denmark making it all the way to the semi-final after that adversity from the first game, the future does look bright for Danish football, and there are some similarities with the Finnish side. I mean, Denmark's modern team with a multicultural team with people with surnames that you might not necessarily associate as being traditionally Danish. Thomas Delaney springs to mind. We've got our own Daniel O'Shaughnessy in the heart of Finnish defence. So just proving that the Irish really do travel. They do certainly get everywhere. But yeah, there's those similarities, and I think Denmark have got a lot to look forward to. There's a lot of youngsters coming through. A couple of guys who came on at the end last night, based at Brentford, I think. So a couple of playing Premier League football next season. So I think ultimately the future's bright for Denmark, and I do certainly hope and pray that it is for Finland as well.
Yeah. Our previous national coach, O Hareide, he predicted a couple of years ago that Denmark could actually reach the semi-finals of this Euros tournament, and he got that one right after all. So, but the current national coach, Kasper Hjulmand, said last night that we haven't seen the last of this team, and they could do it again, and it's not the last time that they will make it this far. So yeah, I guess the future looks bright for us, and that leads me to the next question. What about the Finnish team? How big of an impact will this tournament have for Finnish football and the culture in general in Finland? How have people received this?
Mark, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I think it's been massive for us. It's been massive everywhere. I mean, the Finnish national team has been branding like everything from shot glasses to household saws to furry cuddly toys. So it's raised the profile of the game immensely. In addition to the game, the profile of the game and sort of the advertising, you've got UEFA backing and more money that's going to flow into the game, which is, I mean, it's not so much needed, I think, in the Superliga, but for the Veikkausliiga here in Finland, that's a little bit of money goes a really long way here to actually help grassroots grow. And there's a lot of other campaigns that are coming out now to get people into grassroots football, into coaching, into team development. So it looks like we've got some really good positive energy. The other thing about this squad is that, I mean, a lot of the squad is kind of a bit north of 30, but a lot of people, when we talk about the missed opportunities and what could have been, they talk about 3 or 4 players that we had with us this time that are young, early 20s, that really, like Oni Valakari, who scored a wonder goal against France, and who really could have probably changed the course of 1 or 2, particularly the Russia game, because he's got quick feet and he's got really good movement. So we think this tournament's, it's put us up on that sort of top layer of like European nations and European football, but we also think that there's enough of a foundation here to build from, so that we can be regular features in these kinds of competitions in the years ahead.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's the effect it could have on football in Finland, and just the raising the profile, so that everyone in Finland knows that Finland has a team that can compete in the top competitions will only go to, I don't know, hopefully increase eyeballs on the game, whether it's attending matches or watching on TV, but just making this a more serious participation and spectator sport in the future. Here's hoping, anyway.
I mean, as you'll be aware, Michael, Finland is really a hockey-loving nation. The country does tend to get behind the hockey team when they play, and they'll get behind the various Olympians that feature at both the Summer and Winter Olympics. But the national football team was sort of coming in third behind those two supporter groups. But participation is massive. Football's huge in Finland amongst youngsters, right the way through to organised men's and women's teams. But yeah, it was always sort of a sort of left field mob who followed the national team with gusto. But I think it is becoming a little bit more mainstream and a little bit, dare I say it, a little bit cool to put your Finland shirt on and be seen walking down the street in it. So yeah, and I for one say the more the merrier. The more people that are attending the games, be that Veikkausliiga games or national team games, the more people that are buying the merchandise, the more money feeds back into the game, and we can develop those facilities for all the youngsters coming through, and hopefully the cycle continues with a successful national team.
Yeah. No longer just the hipster's choice, huh?
That's
Become
it.
more mainstream.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
does anyone have anything else, or shall we wrap it up there, because our 20-minute chat has now lasted about 40, which is about par for the course with the Finnish football show. Nobody here is surprised. Michael Christiansen, thank you for kind of instigating this, for inspiring this chat. I think it's been interesting to sort of hear from your side, and I hope it's been useful for you as well.
Certainly has.
If the listener wants to know more about you, are you available online to be followed somewhere, like all journalists seem to be nowadays?
As a matter of fact, I'm not.
Okay,
not
you're a secret journalist.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Not
fair
undercover,
enough.
just I think I had enough of the social media thing.
Yeah,
so
well,
Tell me about
that's
it.
fair.
yeah.
And
Believe it or not.
no, I think it's. I think that if we all thought we could do a bit less of it, then we probably would. But we all have to pimp out this show as far and wide as we possibly can as well. So, anyway, thank you for joining us, and to Mark, Rich, and Keke. Thanks to you guys too.
Cheers.
Tuck.
And until the next episode of the Finnish Football Show, thanks a lot. Goodbye.